everyone, it's Jack from Cultaholic and it's time to talk about the St. Patrick's Day Slam. I'm an 8th Irish, so I'm fully qualified. Yes, this week's edition of Dynamite was a little bit of a special one, not like a full pay-per-view or anything like that, but it had a certain theme, lots of wrestlers wearing green to celebrate St. Patrick's Day, and a lot of big matches on it as well actually, so let's waste no further time and let's get straight into it and decide how good the show was. Of course, there's only one way of finding out how good the show was, and that is by assigning each individual segment a lovely individual grade. That's right, it's time for AEW Dynamite St. Patrick's Day Slam Graded. Nice cold open to the show to start things off as we see MJF's new stable arrive in a lovely private jet. Looking fantastic, the suits and everything, and you can tell they're all secretly having a really fun time being able to stand there in suits next to Tully Blanchard pretending to be horsemen. It's all good stuff. We open the show with a big match that was set up last week, Penta versus Cody Rhodes, and there's a little inset promo for Penta as he is making his entrance, and I take back everything I said last week about Penta's friend from the Spanish announce team, Alex, I believe he's called. He's fantastic. He's fully on Penta's side. He is a heel, and I'm all there. I'm there for it fully. I love him. Cody makes his entrance with On, but Penta's wasting no time, diving over the ropes onto him, and we're away straight away. Back in the ring, Cody goes for the crossroads early on, but Penta slips out. They head to the outside. Penta takes control out there, and then even dons a lovely St. Patrick's Day hat from one of the heels in the crowd. Very fetching. Penta starts to focus on Cody's injured shoulder, of course, so Cody has to dig deep and stray outside of his usual arsenal of moves. He hits a suicide dive, back in the ring he hits a Canadian destroyer, and then he nails the Cody cutter, but it only gets 2. So he goes for the crossroads, and I'm expecting it to get reversed, but he actually nails it, and I'm like, oh, this feels a little bit early in the match for the crossroads, and that's because Penta kicks out at 2. So Cody scoops him up, vertebreaker, 1-2, Penta kicks out again. Okay. Cody drags Penta to the corner of the ring, slams his leg into the ring post, and then applies the figure 4. And Penta struggles and struggles and finally makes the ropes. So Cody just drags him back in and applies it again, but this time Penta reverses into the arm breaking position and he yanks Cody's arm back, and it looks like Penta's going to win this thing. And Penta gets up, you know, he's all hyped up, he's taunting, and then gets rolled up for 3 by Cody immediately. And I'm like, wait, have I missed something? What happened there? Penta continues the attack after the bell, so Dustin Rhodes gets in the ring, Arn Anderson gets in the ring, the Gun Club come down and they chase Penta away. He heads round to the stage and QT Marshall turns up late to save Cody. He's sort of walking out, doesn't really do anything to Penta. Penta just walks past him to the back and QT's like, sorry guys, I was late, I don't know what to say. And all the rest of the Nightmare family are really cross at him. I'm only going to give this match a C+, which sounds really, really harsh, and I did enjoy the match for the most part, but my issue with it is all to do with the finish. Maybe it's because I was a big Lucha Underground fan. I'm used to Penta's arm break thing, spelling the end for his opponents. That should be it, you know, there should be no coming back for that. He should at least win the match, even if Cody isn't injured for weeks and weeks. Instead, Cody gets the roll-up using both his strong arm and his weakened one, and I just thought it was a bit of a cheap finish. I didn't think it was necessary either. I don't see why they couldn't have just had the arm break spot be the end of the match, and that achieves what they want to put over. Even if they need Cody to do more stuff in the weeks to come, they can just say it wasn't quite broken, but it's been severely weakened, or that sort of thing. I don't think Cody needed to beat Penta in the aftermath of that. I get they try to keep Penta strong by having him kick out of all of Cody's moves, but it just left a sour taste for me. Backstage we go now to my boy, Alex Marvez, who is with the Young Bucks. Matt Jackson says, well, Phoenix beat me the other week. He's beaten Nick before in singles competition as well. But together, we are the best tag team in the world, and we are obviously going to retain our titles against Phoenix and Pac when that match happens. But then they're cut off by Don Callis. Don rolls up, the Bucks are immediately like, what the hell are you doing here? Get out of here. And Don's like, I just came to say that I feel bad for your dad. Obviously, he got that huge beat down from Jericho and MJF. You guys couldn't save him. So I brought him a Get Well t-shirt. And he unfurls this t-shirt and there's a big sign on it saying, do not slap leg while kicking. A reference to WWE. Haha. Callis says that the Young Bucks may have founded All Elite Wrestling, but he doesn't see anything elite about them anymore. Can they really look in the mirror and see the same tag team that he once saw back in New Japan? Callis is saying they've gone soft. Ooh. Now, just quickly, I'm not one of those people who absolutely hates it whenever AEW throw a shot at WWE. I think it's quite hit and miss, but this one was a definite miss for me. I don't think you should acknowledge the leg slapping thing in kayfabe because it's an acknowledgement that the action we are seeing on this show is simulated, you know what I mean? It didn't sit right with me. Next up, we have Jade Cargill taking on Dani Jordan, who I don't think we've seen on Dynamite for quite some time. Apparently, she last wrestled in 2019 and has an 0-2 record, so this is probably going to be a squash. Jordan is full of fire though at the start. They grapple and she nails Cargill with a back elbow, but it just annoys her, and she takes Dani down with a big bicycle kick and then launches her halfway across the ring with a huge German suplex. She hits her with her finisher, which I believe is called the Jaded, because Jade Cargill makes sense, and pins her, and that's the match, a total squash. And then as Jade is on her way out of the arena, she jaws with Red Velvet at ringside. Red Velvet swings for her, all the baby faces in the crowd hold her back, and Jade just laughs. As I mentioned, this was a total squash match. I often give squash matches a C, but this one served its purpose. Jade looks really dominant, so it gets a C+. Next up, here comes MJF's new stable into the ring, and Tully Blanchard is on the mic. He says, 1 week ago, we stood in this very ring alongside the greatest group in AEW. Or should I say, what used to be the greatest group in AEW. And then he details the decimation of the Inner Circle last week, walking around saying, that's where Sammy got his head put through a chair. That's where I hit the spike pile driver. You know what I mean. Tully then says he used to be part of the greatest group in wrestling history, and now he's going to end his career with the greatest group around. And then he gives the mic to MJF, who opens his promo by saying, well, I guess I am Judas now. Ooh. The insults come thick and fast. He says that, you know, Chris Jericho, it was no walk in the park trying to pretend to like you. And by the way, you could probably use a little bit more of that. And I'm like, oh, it's kicking off. He goes on to say it certainly wasn't easy pretending to laugh at Jericho's awful jokes and taking a back seat to him and playing along with his terrible ha-ha comedy, but it all paid off in the end. And MJF admits that his goal from day one when he joined the Inner Circle was to take the group down from the inside and build a better group on top of its remains. He then runs down the membership of his stable and reveals their name, the Pinnacle. You know, it's Wardlow, it's Sean Spears, it's FTR, it's Tully Blanchard and MJF. And then he talks up how young he is. He's only 24. He's still got a good 25 years, he says, of his career left in him. And he hopes that that makes all of us at home want to put our fists through the TV screen. And at this point, he's channeling Ric Flair a little bit because he gets all hyped up and he's like, what, put your fist through the screen. Woo! I'm expecting a woo. It doesn't come. Sadly. He then closes by saying that the Pinnacle are going to be the backbone of AEW for years to come, and they're going to hold all the gold and dominate and all the rest of it. And he says, right now though, what we want is the Inner Circle's locker room. And that's what they do later on in the show. We see them taking the Inner Circle sign off the locker room, putting up a Pinnacle sign instead, which is a nice mountain range, and then they head in. And there's a new sheriff in town, an evil sheriff. There's a new bad sheriff in town, and his gang of deputies. My metaphors need work. I'm giving this an A grade. Great stuff, really good stuff in here from MJF, as we're used to by this point. At some points it felt like he was maybe trying a little bit too hard, but you know, even an off day for MJF's incredible, and this certainly wasn't an off day, so A grade I think is fair, and I'm really excited to see what they do next. Next up, 5-man tag team action as Matt Hardy and his group, Private Party and the Butcher and the Blade, take on the babyface team of Jurassic Express, all 3 members, Jungle Boy, Luchasaurus and Marco Stunt, and Bear Country, now making that transition from Dark to Dynamite. Marco Stunt starts things off with Matt Hardy. He does the Hardy Boys taunt, the whoa, what's the... Oh, Matt Hardy doesn't like it and starts to beat him up, and everyone gets in and it breaks down immediately. The faces clear the ring, all the heels are on the outside, and then the baby faces lift up Marco Stunt and just launch him onto the heels on the outside, and he nearly lands on his head, but he's okay in the end. It looks reckless, but it looks cool at the same time, which sums up wrestling really. But the heels fight back into it. They are isolating Jungle Boy. They're working him over for quite some time until eventually he gets the hot tag to Luchasaurus, who clears house for a little bit. But just when it looks like the babyface team are going to take control and possibly win this match, there are miscommunications between the members of Bear Country and Jurassic Express. They start arguing, they're confused about who's getting the tag and what's going on, and it leads to Marco Stunt being the legal man, isolated with Private Party. They nail him with gin and juice, and he is out for the count. But it's not over yet because Matt Hardy demands the tag, tags himself in, dances around a little bit because Marco Stunt is basically unconscious, lifts him up, twist of fate, 1, 2, 3, and Matt Hardy's group win the match. I realised at the start, did I say 5-man tag team action? I meant 10-man. I meant 5 on 5. And if you watched that and saw me make that mistake, I did remember it. I did, but just just too late. And if I didn't say it, then my mind's playing tricks on me and I'm just being paranoid. This gets a B grade, perfectly serviceable match, did its job, nothing more to say. We go backstage now for an interview with Christian Cage, who of course has only recently joined AEW and got into a bit of a confrontation with Kenny Omega. Christian says that he's glad that Kenny interrupted his segment last week because he finally got a chance to meet the AEW World Champion, and he tells Kenny that his reign is on borrowed time. Christian also says that the reason he is in AEW is to cement his legacy and to, outwork everybody, as his new slogan says. Next up, we find Jon Moxley and Eddie Kingston in a yellow room somewhere, cutting a promo. I don't know where that was, but I liked it. Nice, pretty yellow room. And they're angry at the Good Brothers. Moxley's angry, and not just because he wasted his money, he says, on Talking Shopomania. Whoa, shooting from the hip. They also mock the Bullet Club sign. Kingston says they're not real, they're not shooters, and all that sort of thing. But the point is that they want a piece of the Good Brothers. I really like the interplay between the two in these like joint promos they do, especially when at one point Moxley says that I'm banged up, I'd rather be on a beach somewhere sipping a Mai Tai, and Kingston's like, Mai Tai? What are you talking about? Now it's time for the match. Kingston makes his entrance first. The Good Brothers jump him from behind, but here comes Moxley, all bandaged up still from that exploding barbed wire death match, but he's trying to save the day. It leads to a big brawl on the outside before the bell has even rang to start the match, and the Good Brothers take control. Moxley is still very banged up, he's not 100%, and they nail him with the Magic Killer, get Eddie in the ring, and the match begins, and it's basically 2-on-1. Eventually though, Moxley very slowly, over the course of like 5 minutes, maybe even longer, gradually makes his way back to their corner. Eddie Kingston gradually manages to fight his way out of the double team offense of the Good Brothers, nails a big suplex, gets over to the correct side of the ring, gets the hot tag, and here comes Moxley throwing big lariats, but selling his injured shoulder every time. Moxley hits a pile driver on Anderson, but Gallows breaks it up in the nick of time, and then the Good Brothers work their way back into the match. They manage to set Moxley up for another Magic Killer. Kingston saves the day. He spills to the outside alongside Gallows, and they're going at it. Back in the ring, Moxley rolls up Anderson. 1, 2, 3. I wish Cody's match hadn't ended with a roll-up, because I think this would have been much more effective if we hadn't seen that at the start of the show. After the match, the Good Brothers continue their assault on the babyfaces. They're angry that they've lost as well. And then here comes Kenny Omega, dancing weirdly down to the ring. I can't begin to really describe the kind of dancing that he was doing. It was really weird. But it's Kenny Omega, so it's kind of par for the course. Kenny gets in the ring with a steel chair and they Pillmanize Eddie Kingston's leg. They then put the chair around Moxley's head and they're looking to do the same to his neck, but the Young Bucks run out and stop them from doing so. A big argument ensues. The Young Bucks refuse to return the too sweet gesture when the Good Brothers and Callis, for some reason, throw it up, and they leave the ring instead. And the argument continues and carries on. The Bucks aren't walking away, but they're not joining in. They don't seem to really be friends anymore with the Good Brothers. They think they've lost their way, is what I'm getting from this. And Omega as well, of course. We'll never find out whether they would have come to blows or not, because Moxley grabs the steel chair and chases them all out of the ring. And Eddie Kingston's on the outside, but he's like, put me in the ring with Moxley, to the medics. They roll him in and he's there with his best friend, but his leg's all busted. It's not over yet, is it? More dramatic things are going to happen. This gets a B+ grade. It was long. Not the match specifically, but the promo and then the match and then the aftermath. Felt like it really dominated the middle portion of this show. But at the same time, it was fun. I enjoyed the tag match. It was full of little really good things from Kingston and Moxley in terms of selling and psychology. And I think afterwards, that was pretty good too. The tension between the Bucks and the Good Brothers. It helps make things a little bit more clear in a situation that was really murky from an audience point of view. Now it's time for Tony Schiavone to do his weekly interview with Sting and Darby Allin as well this time. Sting and Darby come out. Darby gets on the mic and says that he wants to be more of a fighting champion, and he really wants to challenge any of the Dark Order because he's paying tribute to the greatest TNT champion, Brody Lee. So he issues an open challenge to any member of the Dark Order. Later on, we'd find that that challenge will be accepted by, well, at first it seems like it's going to be -1, but they're like, whoa, -1, maybe in about 10 years or so. You are only 9 years old. Instead, Alex Reynolds goes, why not John Silver? And Silver's like, yeah, Johnny Hungee, because John Silver, he's just likeable, isn't he? But anyway, back to the segment with Sting and Darby Allin. They are interrupted by Lance Archer and Jake Roberts again, who come out onto the stage, and Archer specifically seems to have it in for Sting and warns him not to play with fire. And Jay Roberts completely buries Darby Allin, which I wasn't a big fan of. He says, why don't you go and put your bun back on backstage, your bun, because you're nothing more than a little weenie boy. And I was like, oh, Jake, no. They walk off, Jake and Archer, and it's back to Sting and Darby Allin, but they're interrupted again by Team Taz. And I'm like, oh no, is this feud not over yet? Well, it turns out, actually, it might be. That's because Brian Cage takes the mic from Taz and says, no, I've got something to say. And he gets in Sting's face and he says, look, we went through a hellacious street fight, and I respect you. And Ricky Starks was wrong. Even with or without your baseball bat, you are still the icon. And the rest of Team Taz are absolutely furious at this. They all get in Brian Cage's face. They're like, what on earth are you doing? And Cage is just like, well, that's just what I think. And he angrily storms off. And it looks like he may have turned babyface. This gets a B+ grade, a very efficient segment. It set up 3 different things. It set up Darby Allin versus the Dark Order, or John Silver specifically, as we'd find out later on. It set up Lance Archer versus Sting, possibly in the future. And it set up Brian Cage versus maybe the rest of Team Taz. And I can't wait for Brian Cage versus Powerhouse Hobbs. Please let it happen. Next up, we get a short little Scorpio Sky video package basically explaining why he's turned heel, essentially. He says, I did everything I was supposed to become the face of this company, but they're only interested in the Codys, the Darbys, the Stings, and I just don't fit the bill. The old saying goes, nice guys finish last, and I tried to be the exception for the longest time. And now I've realized that I've failed in that, and it's time to go a different way. Next up, we get a short match between Fenix and Angelico. It starts off with lots of grappling and technical stuff, because that's Angelico's style at the moment, and he's really good at it. But Fenix matches him hold for hold. Angelico does, after a while, start to grind Fenix down, but Fenix fights back with his forward roll, leaping cutter that he does so well. But then Angelico gets back into it, locks on that Navarro death roll, but Fenix is too close to the ropes and immediately grabs them. We then get some capoeira kicks. Is that how you pronounce it? Capoeira, I think. The Eddie from Tekken. He does some of those kicks, and Fenix looks in trouble, but then he reverses a move into the crucifix bomb, then scoops up Angelico. Phoenix driver, 1, 2, 3. Short match, nothing to complain about. The right man won. I'm giving it a B+. It's time for another segment involving my boy, Alex Marvez. He's backstage or in a gym somewhere, and he's found Miro and says, Miro, are you going to accept that challenge from Chuck Taylor and Orange Cassidy for a rematch? And Miro's like, no, we've beaten them already. I want to move on. I want to achieve my destiny. And then Kip Sabian comes along and says, whoa, I'm not done. I still want revenge. They ruined my wedding. There's a bit of tension between the two. Miro says, look, we're best friends outside the ring. Inside the ring, I don't care about you. I don't even care about your wife. It's all about me and my destiny. And Sabian says, I understand that, and I'm not going to stand in your way. And Miro's like, thank you, and walks off. And then Marvez goes, so you're going to accept the challenge then, Kip? And Kip's like, yeah, obviously. Guys, Kip's in trouble. Kip's gonna get beaten up. And finally, we get an unsanctioned Falls Count Anywhere no DQ match between Thunder Rosa and Dr. Britt Baker, DMD. This was wild. The tone is set from the very beginning when Rebel blindsides Thunder Rosa from behind with her crutch, but then Thunder Rosa grabs Rebel and takes her out to the apron, and then Britt dives onto Thunder Rosa and nails her with an air raid crash, but Thunder Rosa kicks out of one after an air raid crash on the stage. That's the level of intensity we're at for this one. Britt at one stage lays Thunder Rosa's head on the steps and stomps on her head, and Thunder Rosa comes up bleeding, but then Britt Baker gets busted open even worse a few moments later because Thunder Rosa lays a ladder horizontally against her in the corner, runs and just drop kicks it into her, and Britt is busted open, man. It looks gruesome, but kind of awesome at the same time. Rosa then raises the stakes with just a casual Death Valley driver off the middle rope onto a ladder. There's some nasty spots in this match. Britt Baker is an absolute warrior. Britt works her way back into it with a stomp again, this time on a steel chair, and then Rebel hands her a sack of thumbtacks and she empties it all over the ring. But Thunder Rosa's fighting back, and then Rebel tries to get involved, so Thunder Rosa knocks her off the apron and Rebel takes a big funny table bump. Funny, I'm not trying to sell it short. It was awesome to see Rebel take the table bump. Rebel's just naturally very funny, isn't she? Britt Baker eats a powerbomb into the thumbtacks. They're all in her back. It's awesome, but grisly. She kicks out at 2 though, and gets the lockjaw applied on Thunder Rosa, but then Rosa reverses it by rolling Britt into the thumbtacks again, and Britt has to break the hold, and then they end it by heading to the apron, and Thunder Rosa gets Britt in it's either like an air raid crash or a tombstone. I think it's the Thunder Rosa driver, or the Rosa driver. I'm not entirely certain about the name. It's a nasty looking move, and she leaps off the apron, smashes Britt through the table below. I think Britt's okay. In real life, of course. In kayfabe, she's absolutely done. and that ends the match. I mean, originally I was going to give this match an A, but I've got to give it an A+, haven't I? It was awesome in a Mike Awesome versus Tanaka kind of way, in that they kicked out of things that you probably wouldn't expect them to kick out of normally, but sometimes exceptions can be made, and this was certainly one of those cases. It was intense, it was bloody, it was brilliant. I'm giving it an A+. Great ending to the show. But overall, the show sadly only gets an A-. Awesome main event, brilliant promo from MJF. I wanted to give the show a higher grade overall, but certain parts were a bit off. The Cody Penta finish really did get to me a little bit, and I just feel like certain other things weren't quite on the same level as that main event match and that promo from MJF. Still, not everything on a TV show usually can be of a consistently very high level. You need peaks and troughs, of course. I still think it was a good show and everything. A- is not a bad grade at all, but just certain things could have been maybe polished a little bit more. With that said though, it was still a very good show, but I'm interested to know what you thought of it. Please do leave your thoughts and opinions in that comment section down below. Smash that like button, because I'm a YouTuber, and stay safe out there, stay positive. Thanks for watching as well, and I'll see you very soon.